constraint, structure, condition. Okay, especially in relational data model and relational database model is based on the relational concept that we are going to learn in this semester. Also, data model include the operation. Okay, so like when you learn the set theory, after you define a set, you learned about operation, like the intersection, union, minus, complement, and something like that. We will learn such an operation in relational data model too. Okay? Why such an operation are important? Based on that operation, we can access the data. Okay? There are two types of data model, actually three. Conceptual level model, physical model. Conceptual model is from information. We want to find meaningful information. Okay, like the student and the instructor, step, something like that. To find such an important information, do we need any computer science skill? Do we need to know computer or programming language? No. Without such a knowledge, you can ask anyone who knows the university. Why don't you design the university? What information we need? I believe the staff in the library will be better than us because they know how universities are organized. Then they can pick up such an important information. This is called conceptual data model, logical data model. Conceptual, logical means you can just design on your brain with your hand, not using the computer. Okay? That is the first step of the database design. What about the real project? Real project, this is much more important than the other implementation. That's the reason the real project pay more money to such a logical model. They just provide you need this one, save. That's true. Then they take the more money. Then database program. That's true. To overcome this one, you better know about how to do the conceptual model. To make the better conceptual model, what is the most important one? You should know business logic, money flow, policy, and law, and something like tax information. Okay? Most of the business logic are related to the money. That's the reason business, the subject in the business school or the technical management also recommend to be a good database model. Nowadays, data analyst, something like that. Then, on the other hand, the physical model is the data model based on this information to create the data on your database. Okay? It's called the low level, internal level database model. Depending on how to store the data, performance will be different. Also, what data type you create for the social security number. Even though that's a number, we don't have to create the data as a number type. Why? Because it's a fixed 9. It's a 9-digit number, so it can be kept, right? So that kind of thing will be done in physical data model. So if you go to the dice.com, careerbuilder.com, when you find the job description related to the data or database developer, you can see at least this kind of the requirement. 3 years of logical model, conceptual model. 3 years of the physical model, data model, database model. If you didn't understand what that means, you cannot find the job. There is another one, implementation model. Actually, this is not well known, the data model. Also with this textbook, I'm sorry, with this, you don't have to pay attention too much. I already explained about the database schema. That's a description. Our goal is to find such a description, such a database schema to build a database. The database state is like this one. This is a database schema. This is our goal. For what? For logical database model. This is our goal. Okay? So using this database schema, we will create a database. That is the physical database model. And if we add some sample data like this is called database state. And finally, we can access the data from application program. By summarizing this, the ideas and the benefit characteristics of the DBMS, we can define the three schema architecture in database model. Actually, this is not my idea. This is not Dr. Emersary, those of this textbook, not his idea. It's the ANSI standard. So ANSI standard, the ANSI proposed the standard database structure to implement such a program data independence, so characteristic, and support the multi-view of the data. So there are three schema architecture: external schema, conceptual schema, and internal level schema. This student, instructor, and so on, such a description is called conceptual schema. So in other words, our goal of the logical database model, logical data modeling, is to build a conceptual schema. Then, later, based on this, the logical model conceptual schema, we can create the database on your computer. That is the internal schema. Then stored at the database. Do you think they need to know each other? No, you don't have to. In other words, if you change something internally, like I change the location of the lead into this, the file system, or the storage, conceptually, lead is still name, last name, never change it. It's an independent. Conceptual level and internal level, they don't have to communicate. Instead, DBMS control is mapping. Okay. Similarly, one of the characteristics of the using DBMS approach is multi-view, different view of the same schema, like this. So external view, we have the one student, but it can be you as advisor student, payroll student, HR student. At the time, we don't have to create again. Instead, we can just create the view. View is kind of virtual, the scheme. Who managed this one? It's also DBMS. So this is called the three schema architecture used in most of the DBMS systems. So they are just mapped each level by what? The DBMS. So we can see from this three schema architecture, logical data independence. Logical data independence, physical data independence. We already discussed about that. From the database model, operation is one of the part of the database model. From the operation, we can eventually define the database language. In computer science, what is a language? Yeah. In computer science, what is a programming language? It's a structure. Structure for what?
Instruction.
Instruction? It's a set of instruction. But why do we need programming language? We need to communicate with the computer resource. Okay? computer cannot understand the mind order directly. Instead, we need to go through such a programming language. It's a structured format. So it's a data structure. C has their own data structure. C++ has their own structure. Eventually, using program language, we can implement our idea. Okay? In this room, I can just say, speak in English, then you can understand. But in computer and human being, the computer needs to code, then compile, then run it, then computer can understand it. So similarly, database, there's no way to communicate between the human being and the application and the DBMS except the database language. So that is a DBMS language. There are three types of the language. One is data definition language. Another one is the data manipulation language. Third one is data control language. Definition language means you can create the database. You can create the column. You can create a table. You can create a database. You can create something. You can modify such a structure. It's called the data definition language. And data manipulation language is handle the data. That's different from the program languages. Other program languages include data definition part. So you can define object, or you can define the variable. Then you can implement the algorithm. You can code the variable. But in database, it's separated. Okay, that is the DDL and that's the DML. Have you ever heard of a SQL? SQL, that stands for Structured Query Language. By the way, why is the structured query language? Who will learn it? These SQL include both data definition language and data manipulation language. So chapter 8 we will learn, chapter 4 and 5 we will learn how to use the data definition language and manipulation language. In addition to that, there is the data control language. Data control language include give the permission, grant the permission, and revoke the permission, and other control language. The main characteristic of the data SQL is it's non-procedural language. That's the reason it's called the structured query language. What about the C language? What about the C++, .NET? All of them are procedural language, which means there are starting point, there are ending point. And it can be controlled by the if, then, else. And eventually it should be ended. Just like a procedure, flowchart that you can design. That's the procedure. Depending on the condition, depending on the data, it can be processed different way. However, in SQL, there is no starting, there is no ending. It will be used for to access database as defined. For example, database design and database implementation similar as the building house. So using the blueprint, you can build a house there. Eventually, you need to use the room at this building. How can you use it? There might be entrance door. And if you turn left, it is the computer center. Turn right, it's the computer engineer. And go upstairs, it is the office, something like that. It's already fixed. Okay, you cannot change it the whole way. Okay, you can just follow the model, design the whole way to access the room. So SQL is such a way. It's a non-procedural language. What time is it? 2:40. We have 5 more minutes. Also, one more important thing is SQL is the only way to access database, relational database. Relational database. That's the only way. Is there any other way you have used? Probably some of them. For example, LING or component-based database, they actually hire the SQL inside their component or object. User does not know what's going on inside. However, eventually it will use the SQL language to access the data. Why? Because who will learn why such a component-based, object-based approach is getting popular right now. Later, but simply it's because hard to learn all these database language. So they try to abstract accessing the database. Then it looks like the accessing data in your program as an object. But eventually it will use the SQL. SQL is the only way to access the data, even though it is abstracted. DBA method, in addition to define the database and create the database, access the database, in addition to such a functionality, DBMS actually provides more functionality for convenience, like the backup and recovery. Nowadays, backup and recovery is very, very important, especially after 9/11. Many of the companies lose their data because of the collapse of World Trade Center. Some of the companies not, because they have the backup data, backup side. After that, actually, many of the IT companies have made a lot of money because of their backup and recovery, disaster recovery. Okay, so DBMS supports such a backup and recovery because data itself is very important for customers. Also, it provides the data export and import tool. Also, DBMS provides some nice interface to access the data instead of SQL. So these functionalities are provided by the DBMS system. Some of the DBMS system provide bunch of different tools, but the others are not. So for example, Oracle is not only just the DBMS right now, it has something data mining and the business, the tool, and the SAP provides something business component and so on. So this is the typical DBMS component module. We will discuss a little bit more about each component in the second part of the semester. I don't think we have enough time, so in the next class I will explain about this a little bit. Then we are going to start to look for the database design from logical database model. Okay, I think you probably heard about ER model. Okay, we will use the ER model for logical database model. Okay, so any question? I have one problem regarding to the exercise lab. We are going to use the Tech 163, but Tech 163 can accommodate only the 24 student maximum. But I have more than 24. Unfortunately, not all computers in the room are available. Sometimes it's only 20 students. So I'd like to split into two groups for exercise lab, which means one group will perform the exercise lab this time, 1:30 to 2:45. Then second team will be after that, which means the 2:45 after this. Or I'm going to have the exercise lab before 1:30. Okay. Anyways, we will talk about details later. After we